Hi everyone and welcome back. In today's video, I am going to case my own card. So back in December, I was running a little low on inspiration and I came across a card that I had created a while back. I loved it. It is one of my favorite card projects. And I thought, you know what? To jumpstart my creativity, I was going to case that card. I'm going to use very similar images, if not the exact same ones, except change up the color combinations a little bit. If you're interested in that video that I had done previously or any of the supplies I'm using, I will have all of that linked down below in the video description. So the first thing I needed to do was create a moon. And I have some scrap pieces of Masking Magic from Gina K Designs, and I'm going to use the Master Layouts 3. It has a circle die in there that was just a perfect size for a moon for the center focal point of my card. So I'm just going to die cut that circle out of my scrap circle I already have. It's just that that scrap was a little bit too big. So I'm just going to die cut that with my mini intricate machine. And then I'm going to have my mask. Masking Magic is one of the best materials you could use for masking your projects. I have a piece of layering weight white cardstock from Gina K Designs that I'm putting a little bit of repositionable tape on the back. That's going to secure this down to my glass work surface. And then I'm peeling off the back of the Masking Magic, and I'm going to try and center this as best as I can up towards the top of my card. So this is where my moon is going to be, and I'm going to actually be making two cards because I have two different color combinations that I wanted to do. The first one is using light carnation, light, medium, and dark lilac. I'm going to start with the light carnation. Now, I am blending kind of right on that Masking Magic and then slowly going off of it onto the cardstock. What this light carnation is going to do is it's creating a halo around the moon. So instead of being a blue or a yellow, I'm going to make that halo pink for a totally different look. Next, I'll come in with a light lilac and I'm going to go all the way around the edge of my card and also up towards or very near that light pink. Now, this is a lot of blending, but it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. This is just kind of creating a glow for the center of our card. Now I'm going to come in with the medium lilac, again, going around all of those outer edges and leaving a little bit of that lighter shade there. So I do want to have a gradual transition. I'm moving on right here to the dark lilac. And you're going to see as I go through, I am really going to bump up the contrast. I brought in, after the dark lilac, this is going to be, I think it's in the navy. And then I'm also going to do black. So the darker contrast you have around those outer edges, the more that that glow is really going to come into focus and pop off of your card. Now, once I have those edges done, I can carefully remove that mask and I'm going to save it to use for my next card project. But you can see how everything is just popping off of that card. But I'm not done yet. I am going to do some stamping. So I have a sticky mat in here from my Sweet Petunia inside of my Misti tool. That's going to hold my cardstock in place. Notice I'm placing it in the center because I'm going to have a lot of pieces overhanging. Now, I placed the cover sheet or that carrier sheet, it's just an acetate piece, back over the top of my cardstock so that I can figure out my arrangement. I notice that when I have wet ink, like a blended background, and I try to lay stamps over the top, when I go to pick them up with the door of the Misti, it can sometimes rip my cardstock. So it is best to protect it with some sort of acetate sheet or like a carrier sheet from your stamps. Now, once I picked those stamps up at the door of the Misti, I can remove that acetate sheet and then I'm going to ink up my images with some Versafine black ink. Now, these images are coming off of the Summer Silhouettes stamp set. This whole thing is like one of my favorites to use. The silhouettes, the butterflies, it's just all like the perfect combination. I'm bringing in some of these little butterflies. This is also inspiration off of my previous card, which I will hopefully find that picture and show at the end of the video. But I decided instead of stamping in black ink, why not try stamping in the same color that I used to blend my background? So I started out either with the medium or the light lilac, and that was okay. I did stamp it a couple times to try and just make sure those are nice and solid. But I think I bumped it up to the dark lilac, and then I think even a couple of them, I may have used that in the navy, so I may have come in and did that dark blue. So this is a really fun thing to do too, is when you have ink blended backgrounds, stamp maybe your silhouettes in a color ink instead of that dark black. Now I'm going to move on to the second card. So for this one, I use that same mask, but instead of blending from the moon out, I started at the bottom and I think I used Wild Dandelion. Then I came in with Tranquil Teal. Now remember, I filmed this back in December and it's just I've been putting it off and putting it off. I had a lot going on and I just really wanted to share these with you because it's such a fun way to take some of your previous ideas. Just because you created it once doesn't mean you can't create it again and just play with different color combinations. So I think I went through what was it? Wild dandelion, maybe some tranquil teal, maybe the dark lilac, and then the in the navy at the top, and maybe just a smidge of black. So instead of starting from the center, working my way out, I started at the bottom and had it go up and gradually get darker. Now, that moon was a little bit too bright white, so I think I just used some leftover ink I had on my yellow blending brush. I did the same trick with lining up my stamp images. I love the layout, so it's probably pretty similar to my previous card. And then I stamped it again in that Versafine black ink, also adding in some of the butterflies, but this time I just stuck with the black ink for the butterflies. Now I have the butterfly from the stamp set You Give Me Butterflies, another one of my absolute favorites from Gina. This time I went ahead and die cut out a couple pieces from the white cardstock. You can see I have that negative off on the left-hand side. I started by stamping the butterfly first onto some scratch paper in my Misti, and then I'm going to line up that negative piece around the edge of the butterfly and hold that down with either just some sort of low tack tape or washi tape, and this is just going to ensure I'm getting perfect alignment or having that perfect die cut piece. I like to do this little trick when I'm stamping multiples of something. So I do stamp two of the butterflies. Once both of those are stamped and I let them dry for a few minutes, I'm going to do some coloring with my Copic markers. Now, with this particular set, this does have a stencil that you could use to color in your butterfly. I decided to use my markers because I had an idea for each of them. I wanted them to each match the card or the backgrounds that I did. So for my first butterfly, I am using a mix of yellows starting in the center, and then I have some teals that are going to be on the outer edge. Again, the more contrast you use or the darker color you use, the more that that light color is going to pop. So once I finish it, I actually kind of think I probably could have gone a little bit darker in the teals on my edges to really make that light yellow pop, but it still looks really neat. And I think just kind of matching your butterfly to your card project is another fun thing that you can do. And again, I apologize. I'm not 100% sure which colors I specifically used. Some of them you can kind of see the caps, but I did not save my marker combination here because, like I said, I did this back in December. It's a fun thing to do when you just don't know what you want to do, but you want to create. And again, I said this was one of my favorite card projects that I had ever made. I loved the blending of it, the design of it, and there's nothing wrong with going back and using your own designs, maybe just tweaking it with different color combinations. Then for the second butterfly, I'm going to match that one for my other card. So this one's going to be a lot of kind of that lilac purple look to it. And if you enjoy this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up to just let YouTube know to share it with other card makers that may be interested in this content. And I'm also going to have the supply list down below in the video description. I will post these pictures of these cards over on my blog as well. That will be linked down below too. So back to my butterfly, I am trying to keep it a little lighter in the center. You can see I started getting a little carried away with my purples, and I need to get my edges to be darker to make the center pop. Otherwise, it kind of just seems not dimensional enough for me. Adding flicks of this darker shade, I think, really does kind of help boost that contrast a little bit and also just gives it more of that realistic feel to it. I do have some additional details I am going to add to these butterflies once my card project is done, but that's going to be later on at the end of the video. Now, I wanted to do some more to these backgrounds, so I am going to add splatters, but instead of white splatters, I am using antique linen distress spritz. It is a beautiful, sparkly kind of glow to the background. So I have a little bit on a silicone mat that I mixed with some water, and I'm just going to flick that onto the background. So it really gives it that magical nighttime feel. I will let those dry for a little bit before starting to add anything to them. Off screen, I did do some stamping of these sentiments, which I will get to in just a moment here, but I'm adding my butterflies kind of off at an angle there with the moon. I can use the sentiment as a guide, and then each of those are going to get popped up with some thin foam squares. The sentiment is coming off of the Elegant Grading Set, which is a phenomenal, versatile set. So I did stamp those out, use the coordinating die to die cut them, and then popping them up on the front of my card project. So I'm wondering, have you ever cased yourself? Have you ever gone back, really loved a card that you made and decided to make it again? Maybe it was a few months later or even a couple years later. I'm really curious. So let me know down in the comments if you have ever cased yourself. Now, the few added details that I'm going to do are just using a white gel pen and adding some highlights to the butterfly wings. So this first one I finished off has the lilacs, which I really love how that came out. I did add lighter shades of color to the butterfly wings on the outer edges, so I think that was a fun change up. And then this one is having that gradual color change from the top going down. Another really fun take on my original card project, which I will show here. It was just one of my absolute favorites, like I mentioned, and it's always something great to go back to. If you're looking for more inspiration, here is another video that I think you'll enjoy. Thank you so much for stopping by.